Hey everybody, you're watching the channel Two Guys Take on Real Estate. My name's Kevin, I'm the Property Prince. I'm here today without Matt, the Landlord Ninja, because I have a pet peeve that just couldn't wait for me to talk to you about. So, we're going to talk today about eviction moratoriums. That's right, a borderline criminal law that's put on the books that stops landlords from being able to evict bad tenants that are not paying, bad tenants that are not following rules, being a nuisance. Yeah, pretty much a really, really bad situation that doesn't really have an end in sight. Every time there's an end to the moratorium, they've found a way to continue extending it. This is just, it's a remarkable situation that they haven't put any other business in. So if you want to rewind a little bit here back to the beginning of this whole Corona hype thing, they shut down everything and they shut down businesses all over the place. Okay. What they didn't shut down was our business, right? So we're in a bit of a different situation. I mean, when they shut down all these other companies and all these businesses out there, everybody had a bad situation and they were all, all hurting, right? They all wanted to get back to work. They wanted to support their families. They wanted to run their businesses, provide their product, provide their services, but they weren't allowed to. They couldn't. That's bad, and it's really bad. Okay. What we're dealing with is much, much worse. And I don't think a lot of people have an appreciation of that or an understanding of that. So it's not the most popular viewpoint since most people out there aren't real estate investors. They're not people renting homes. They're people that are real estate consumers. They're people that are, renting homes. They're not renting homes out. They're renting them themselves. So of course they don't understand it. They don't appreciate it. And of course their knee-jerk reaction is to think, well, yeah, you can't make people homeless during a pandemic. Well, first of all, yes, of course you could. But the government, if they don't want people to be homeless during a pandemic, should be the one shouldering the burden for this, not the individual homeowner. That's ridiculous. That's like saying, if somebody comes to your restaurant, right? A lot of restaurants out there, a lot of businesses that provide food or services like that, and says, well, people have to eat. You can't not let somebody eat during a pandemic. I mean, yes, you can. If you need to eat, get food stamps, get some type of governmental assistance. The burden shouldn't be on an individual citizen, on a landlord. It's nice if they want to take it up. That's awesome. That's one of the great things about this country is there's so many people out there that choose to do great and wonderful and helpful, caring and sharing things, but it should not be forced upon them. And that's exactly what we've got going on here. So let's talk about that a little bit. Landlords are the only business that I know of, maybe you can share with me some other ones that you can think of, that were forced to stay open and give away their product or services. Now I know people are going to say, well, they're not giving it away, it's still owed. That's ridiculous. 80% of the time, depending on what kind of properties you're working with, if you're working with some tougher tenants and you're serving a demographic of people that also need homes, right? They're fairly judgment proof. These are the people that have never worked and will never work. So they're getting SSI or disability or welfare or whatever other kind of governmental assistance They're basically getting an entire living from the government. It's not assistance that implies that they're doing something for it. So they're getting all their income from the government. You can't garnish that. You can't force them to pay it. It's called being judgment proof. So after they've finished living in your home and you finally were able and allowed to get them through an eviction process, which could be another year, by the way, you'll get a piece of paper that says, hey, this household, this person owes you X amount of thousands of dollars, whatever it is by then, 20 grand. And that payment, that paper is good for an extended amount of time, many, many years, but it's useless to you. They're judgment proof. It's a judgment that says you can collect on them. But, oh, by the way, here's all these different laws about how you can't collect on them. So if you're working with anybody that basically is judgment proof, forget about it. And it's just ridiculous. You have to then spend all that money on a court process to go through this process, only to have a piece of paper you can never make use of. So right there, you're already looking at a bad situation. So if you're then saying, okay, well, aside from people that are judgment proof, other people will have consequences. So at the time of the eviction moratorium expiring, they've got to come up with that money. Well, yeah, they should have come up with that money the whole way through. That's a whole other thing I can rant about, I'm sure. But no, they don't have it then, and they weren't doing the right thing and moving or paying you when the eviction moratorium was going on. And I say the right thing. It's the right thing, by the way, right? Let's not let other people try to tell us different. you're consuming somebody's product or service, the right thing to do is pay for it. I don't know how some other person in some office, somewhere dictates that. But they'll have to pay. Well, they don't. I mean, they haven't been doing the right thing. So naturally, at the end of the moratorium, you'll start filing an eviction. Now, we're going to have a lot of that. So the courts are going to be incredibly backlogged, and I think everybody knows that. So we haven't had access to justice. By the time we're finally allowed to have access to justice again, which may be a constitutional thing, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly backlogged and will take it a really, really long time. And if you're in an incredibly tenant-friendly state like I happen to be, it's a minefield. The process itself is a minefield anyway. So you could have, a lot of problems just getting through the process, victoriously. So, and then, then happy collecting. You have to then chase these folks for the money that they owe you, which is at that point, if they haven't been paying, we're looking at, if you're looking at $1,000 a month for rent, even, you could be looking at, tens of thousands of dollars in loss and damages. People will defend the action and this claim by saying, well, it's a business and businesses have risks. And well, that's true. And you should factor that kind of stuff in. I mean, you absolutely should, but businesses also should have access to justice. You should have the ability to stop a shoplifter. How is this different? They're stealing your services. Best Buy, you will try walking out of there with a Blu-ray player, right? They're probably going to do something about it. You're going to have consequences. Businesses know that theft can happen. Absolutely. They should have the ability to have some justice when somebody's stealing their product or their services. We're being denied that. But it's not just us that's being affected. So if you're a landlord, obviously very near and dear to my heart, I'm a landlord too, amongst other things, right? But, you're not the only one that's losing out here. As a landlord, you hire people. You have contractors, especially if you have more than a couple of units. You're probably hiring, working with a lot of different contractors. Maybe somebody for plumbing, electrical, somebody that does your turnovers when tenants do move out. Maybe somebody that fixes roofs. So in the course of owning, homes, if you're a larger landlord and you have 100 units, you have a lot of contractors that you're not able to pay. So they're not now working anymore, which that really sucks. Where are you getting your supplies, right? You're going to your local hardware store, Home Depot, wherever, probably not buying a lot of supplies if you don't have any money coming in. So you're now not contributing to people's employment. You're now not contributing to the local economy. And that's in a variety of different ways, by the way. Supply is just one part of it. My favorite thing is, I was just about to get into it, my favorite thing is when people think, well, the landlord should just have to not pay their mortgage, and therefore, they'll be fine. They don't have to worry about it. People don't pay their rents. Well, there should be some protections for the landlord. They shouldn't have to pay their mortgage. Maybe that's true. I think people should just be paying their rents, but maybe that's true. So what the people that make that assertion fail to factor in is that a mortgage is just one expense that a landlord has in terms of providing housing. It's just one. It's not even, it's big sometimes, but not always. Who do you think's mowing the grass? Making sure you don't slip and fall on the sidewalks, or by the way, getting fined by the city when the sidewalks aren't shoveled in the wintertime. Who's fixing that leak in the roof or putting a roof on? Literally, actually, great example. I have a tenant that actually that owed over $10,000, and they called in this summer, pissed off. The audacity. Seriously, this is what we've allowed people to turn into. By the way, we've enabled this. Pissed off because their central air conditioner in their single-family home wasn't working, and why? What do you mean we're not going to get out there to fix it until tomorrow? Seriously, they owe us over $10,000. And they're mad because central air in their home was going to take until tomorrow to look at. Are you kidding me? Who has the nerve to do this? This is why we got to make some serious changes, people. But they actually, the next day, tried to submit receipts for having gone out and bought a bunch of window air conditioners. Wow. And sadly, I wouldn't doubt it if the court system here supported that type of thing. I know they support that type of thing, but if this eventually went down that path, which we don't really have much of an option but to wait it out, maybe get down that path, we would see as some kind of a claim or a counterclaim. Amazing. Why do I think people should have been paying their rents right along? Well, we're talking in generalization, so let's not say everybody absolutely should always have the money and have the resources to pay. I know that that won't always happen, and there's going to be some good folks that would do it if they had a legitimate reason that they couldn't, that they couldn't do it. I understand life happens to people, but for the most part, I mean, folks, come on, like, let's stop pretending again that people weren't well taken care of during this pandemic financially and didn't have access to the funds to pay. So again, if you use some generalizations and some numbers, say it's $1,000 a month in rent. Obviously it could be more, it could be less. Anybody that was actually, subsidized or made their living by way of the government, they weren't affected financially. Don't tell me somebody on a Section 8 or a subsidy really got impacted by this, or somebody that's on welfare. The welfare didn't go down. SSI payments. I've had a lady, she has never worked a day in her life. She's got 5 kids. Every single kid is on SSI. Every single child is on SSI. And she gets several $100s a month given to her for those kids. So she's sitting on closer to $5,000 a month, I think it was, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, uninterrupted. And she still has all of her free time. She's not working anyway. For the people that did lose their jobs and lose their income, maybe they were working at a restaurant, maybe they were working in a factory or something like that had closed. Those people got an extra, we all know this, right? An extra $600, yada, yada. There's like some backlash that we should be, not talking about that and not wondering, and holding them responsible, right? I don't understand it. Again, this is what we've developed by allowing, such tenant-friendly laws. But, these folks, assuming there was a couple, that lost their income, we're looking at $600 per week on top of what they would have been given in unemployment during that time. So maybe they're making $600 a week plus, $300 or $500. That's $1,100 a week per person. Really? You can't come up with your $1,000 a month rent? And yeah, that was only for, I don't want to say only for a short time. It was for a long time. That was months of that. And, if you haven't gotten to figure out what you're going to do for work after a few months, what you might want to do is, be smart anyway and budget that money that you got coming in. You got a ton of money coming into your household. And if you don't know what next month's going to bring in terms of employment, and you don't have a plan, you haven't started a business or changed directions or heard from your company that you're going back to work, then, don't go spending all that cash every week. Seriously, put it aside, right? Isn't that what a responsible person would do? I had somebody that approached me and said, oh my gosh, unemployment stopped. We had no idea that was going to happen, and we don't know when we're going back to work. And so we don't have money for next month. And I said, everybody knew when the unemployment stuff was going to stop. That was not, news or shocking to anybody. And, why didn't you do anything to save up? You had 6 months of sitting around and, having free time. You could have, I have a neighbor kid that likes to mow my lawn, and I give him a few bucks for that. He earned more money than some people that, earned while they were just simply collecting hand over fist a ton of money to unemployment. And that's not even counting the stimulus and maybe any tax refunds that would have come in, going into this spring as the corona, lockdown set in. So yeah, I would say, largely it wasn't necessary. There's going to be maybe some people, that fell into some gaps. And there should be some kind of protection, government-funded protection for them, not put it on the landlord, put it on the property owner to shoulder the burden instead of the state. When the state made the decision to take their jobs away, shut the economy down, the state should have to foot the bill for that, put those people on their backs. So if you're going to have an eviction moratorium, where's the help for the one business you didn't allow to close? The one business you didn't force to close. In fact, you held us hostage, you forced us to stay open, and now you're forcing us to do it without payment for an indefinite amount of time. Absolutely ridiculous, completely reckless, borderline criminal, and where's the support? That's the big thing everybody should be taking away for this. What's next? What's in the cards? What happens when these people eventually get thrown out? Thank God, at that point. Oh my God, right? What a relief. The landlord finally got them out of their properties. But the landlord's sitting on having not collected any income or much income for whatever length of time, definitely can't pay back the mortgage that they, have been doing their best to pay back. Hopefully, maybe they've been paying their taxes. The state, the cities, they still want their tax money from the property. The water out of the tap, that's got to come on, right? They're paying the water bill, they're mowing the lawns, or they're getting fined if they don't. Come on. So when people turn around and say, hey, landlord, they didn't have to pay their mortgage for 3 months or 6 months, or there should be some protection. That's just one small piece of the puzzle when it comes to covering the cost of a property. Could you just imagine when the phone calls start rolling in as we're getting into heating season now? It was 40 degrees last night. What do you think landlords are going to say when their non-paying tenants are going to call and say, hey, heating system seems to be broken? And the landlord's like, I don't have $5,000. I don't have 10 grand, whatever the heating system's going to cost there. I don't have that kind of money. Sorry. Then where's the person going, right? Well, we all know the landlord's going to get screwed on that one too. But hey, where should they go? They should go somewhere where the state can put them up. I mean, seriously. I don't know how anybody can think that they're going to sit in a home that they're not paying for with no end in sight and pick up the phone and call the landlord and expect them to have the ability to just magically, keep up with repairs and replacements of the parts of the home, keep up with property taxes and everything else, especially when there's nothing out there so far that's been offered for assistance for anyone else to shoulder the burden instead of the landlord. So, wow. I'm going to close out. I ranted for way longer than I expected I was going to. I really apologize. But seriously, if you're listening to this, call your governor, harass your governor's office, write to all the different people in different forms of government that you possibly can on email. Get that kind of a thing out there because, the reason they're getting away with this is basically, folks have been silent just way too long, and they simply just cater to masses and public perception. What they don't understand is exactly what this is going to create will be more job loss, the inability to pay, and homes going into foreclosure like crazy. So you're going to be seeing boarded up properties where a landlord, probably rightfully so, understandably so anyway, is going to just, shrug and walk away. Heating system broke, got a leak in your roof, haven't paid me. Who is this? Wrong number. Click. Never see him again. He's going to just cash out. He's going to leave, take off, go to Florida and retire. Cut his losses. Because the logical conclusion of this path that you set him on is that he's going to end up losing the home to auction at some point. And, why deal with it at that point? So anyway, I hope that I've inspired everybody to give me a couple of comments about how wrong I am, and we can have some interesting discussion about it. Otherwise, I really hope we can make some changes. So please write to your government officials, and let's get on the board here seeing what we can do to make things better.